And I'm so interested in your perspective on stress. How have we evolved to handle it? Is it really this fight or flight that we keep hearing about? Is that accurate? Are there other ways that we can think about stress, that we can navigate it?
Yeah. Yeah. There's such good questions and so important. And that's why I love being here. Thank you for asking that question.
Of course.
So let's go back to basics here and realize how complicated and simple at the same time that we are, right? And how it affects psychology and psychiatry and behavioral health and mental health. Evolutionarily, we are adaptive beings. We have to change based on our environment in order to survive. Now, the human mind and the human body is somewhat primitive in that respect, because when it comes to survival, here's the truth. As amazing as we are as beings, physiologic beings, our survival mechanisms are really short-term. They are. They're short-term. And this is what I mean by this when it comes to stress. So thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, or however far back you want to go, we developed this general adaptation principle that was brought forth by an individual, Hans Selye. So let's just go back when we were cave women and cavemen. If we felt a threat, what happened? Our bodies experienced a fight or flight phenomenon. Okay. So that fight or flight phenomenon means physiologic things now happen in the body based on what we're thinking. Okay. So back then, if you were afraid that a tribe was trying to throw a spear your way and you thought that, then your body is going to change. And the way that your body changes is this huge survival sort of cascade. All right. And it starts with we know all this fun stuff from medical school, the thalamus and the hypothalamus and corticotropin releasing hormone and telling our adrenal glands to produce norepinephrine. And norepinephrine changes blood flow. It changes blood flow to the muscles and removes it from our digestive system. It slows down digestion and emptying from the stomach and speeds up digestion in the colon and shifts blood vessels in the brain and where blood is going to flow. So based on that thought, that there's a fear that something is going to happen, our body just changed. Okay. Now that's meant to be short term.
What do you mean by short term?
Short term, immediately. Get me out of this situation. Get me out of this situation now. Okay. I need to run. I need to fight. And in order to do those things, my body has just changed. Cortisol. You're flooded with cortisol at that time. You know, your adrenal glands flood cortisol. And what do we know about cortisol? Cortisol tells the liver to more sugar, right? Cortisol reduces the immune response, reduces IL-6 and IL-1 and TNF and, you know, all of these cytokines and immune mediators. So, but in the short term, that's great. The problem is what if you're under stress chronically, right? So even though we've been adapted to get out of these circumstances quickly, if necessary, our body does not know right now in the year 2024 whether we're being chased by a tiger, whether there's a tribe throwing a spear at us, or we have a work deadline, or our cell phones are pinging every 3 minutes, right? Your body doesn't know that. All that it knows, it needs to respond to a threat, a perceived threat.
What adapts faster, mind or body? What do you think adapts faster?
That's easy, your body. And that's part of the problem, is that your body is responding subconsciously, without thought, at that point, to the perceived threat, a subconscious threat. And that's an amazing question, because it's responding subconsciously over and over and over for the exact reason is you don't have time to think in those situations. And evolutionarily, your body knows that. I can't sit here and calculate, well, maybe I should do this, maybe I should do that. As a matter of fact, blood goes away from your prefrontal cortex and it just goes to the basic part of your brain, you know, your midbrain and your hippocampus and your amygdala and all these parts of your brain that are like, look, you need to do this now or else. So it becomes subconscious. Now, that's that autonomic nervous system response, right? That we all know about, the sympathetic nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system. So
which it seems as if it's black and white, but is it?
It's not.
It's not, is it?
It's not. I mean, that sounds so great, right? And I think anybody watching your program right now that's taking a neuroscience course, or maybe neuroscientists out there, still really follow that paradigm of sympathetic, is going to do all those things: epinephrine, norepinephrine, heart rate increase, breathing increase, shifting blood flow to various areas of the body, cortisol, and a million other things that take place. And then the sympathetic nervous system, basically our vagal system that allows us to feel comfortable and relaxed and digest, and slows down our heart rate and makes us feel less guarded. That's a very simple paradigm. And that's sort of what we've followed for quite a long time, but it's so much more complicated than that. And a few theories have been put forth, right, based on that. Like Stephen Porges, for example, in the 1990s put forth what was called the polyvagal theory. And, it's not without controversy. And, we can even get into that a little bit. But what Stephen Porges is saying is that, it's more complicated in the sense that not only do we have fight or flight, but we have vagal branches that can also immobilize us, almost like old reptilian simple brains used to just immobilize and freeze. And why that's important, and ready to go down the rabbit hole, because here we go. Why that's important is this. Understand something, that when we experience chronic stress or chronic trauma, and we have that autonomic nervous system that's just flooding our bodies with cortisol and epinephrine and norepinephrine, eventually you reach a state of exhaustion. And your body knows that. We know as medical physicians, if you have too much cortisol, what happens? You're breaking down body tissues. You're in a catabolic state. We love to work out. I love to train. I don't want to be in a catabolic state. I want to be in an anabolic state. So now some of these theories like polyvagal theory are saying, you're going to go into a position of shutting down at this point. Your vagal system knows this, and it's going to shut you down. And what I mean by shutting down is immobilization.
Physical, mental.
Yeah. So, and here we go.
And also we have to talk about this idea of chronic stress, is that it's the perception of stress.
Yeah.
But what if we change the perception of stress? Would we still have the same physiological responses? What can we do?
I love it.
What do you tell your your patients? What do you tell your friends? What are you going to tell the listener? What can we do? I
love it. You're brilliant. And you're leading me down the proper roads here. So again, autonomic nervous system, fight or flight. If it continues, you go into a state of exhaustion, and you'll probably shut down. And shutting down is a very vague term. What does that even mean? So understand something, and the viewers out there, that I want you to understand, is that this is a physiologic process. It's a physiologic and neurologic process. When you are in a fight or flight state, things change. For example, your visual acuity changes. You become able to see better for very short time periods. Do you know that all of your senses change? So we know that the tympanic muscles, when you are in a fight or flight state, are better at picking up frequencies of scary things, not necessarily speaking tones, right? Your muscles of facial expression change when you're in a fight or flight circumstance. This is all neurologic, and this is all in the data. So a point that I have is that when you're in a constant state of fight or flight, you are physiologically changing, and your body is adapting to be prepared for a fight constantly. Now, how does that affect us day to day and person to person, right? It affects our thought process. And this is getting to your question, okay? We also have something in our central nervous system called the reticular activating system, okay? And the RAS. And get this. And, when I first learned this stuff, I was like, what? This is wild. But we have so many things to process every single moment of every single day. Our bodies and minds and our senses, our five senses, are always scanning the environment for safety and comfort. Our reticular activating system, among other things, is responsible for sleep-wake cycles. It's responsible for conscious awareness. It takes us through our REM cycles, right? But something that it also does that we've known in neuroscience is that it's a filter. And the reason that it's a filter is because we have so much input coming in all of the time. And the RAS is in the brainstem. It's in the anterior brainstem. It's a very small piece of our brain.